Hi, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Ready to Rise podcast. I feel like this is the podcast where it's just all about women's personal development. I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that, how do I describe this really? And it's all just women's personal development. It's all of the things, the healing tools, books, the resources, all of the things that are going to help you to become your best self, right? Your better self, the next best self, all of it. And really, that just means coming home to your truest self, the person who you were before the world told you who you had to be. But I want to talk to you today about goal setting. And I'm not going to go through the traditional, here's how you set a goal and it should be a SMART goal and blah, blah, blah. I want to just talk to you real quick about an actual goal that's going to move the needle in your life and make you feel good in your life. Because I know that so many of us are at this season right now. It's December 20th. We're at this season where we're kind of going into that next year and what does it look like for us? And I've been talking about this a lot on Instagram, but for me, traditionally, this looks like getting a whole planner for the next year, writing down all of my big goals, like lose 50 pounds, buy a new house, buy a new car, blah, 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 like all these huge goals. And then the habits, right? I would literally write out each goal and underneath it, write out all of the habits that I need to, do to get myself there. That could look like a 4 a.m. workout, and then we got to do this, and then we got to meditate, and then we got to read this book, and we have to drink this green smoothie and all of that. Of course, they were really good habits, really great things that I wanted to do for myself. A green smoothie every morning is amazing. Meditation is awesome every day. But I was holding myself to these perfectionist tendencies, to these standards that were not actually serving me. They were just putting me into a cycle of self-doubt and a lower self-worth because I was holding myself to these unrealistic and unattainable standards. And you can't continue doing something and feel good about it if it's not sustainable, right? So once it falls off because it's not sustainable, and so it will fall off, that's when it feels like and we feel so bad about ourselves and we go back into these old habits and we feel unworthy, unlovable, all of that. We feel shame, we feel guilt because we couldn't continue to meet ourselves and show up for ourselves. So this year, I want to really advise you to please find the one area of your life, that one place that you want to put your attention into. Maybe it's health. What does that mean? Does that mean we're starting with nutrition? Does it mean we're starting with fitness? Does it mean we're starting with drinking more water or getting our 1,000 steps? Maybe we're looking into more of a mental health standpoint. Does that mean that I need to hire my one-on-one mentor? Does it mean that I need to come to a Rise retreat this year? Does it mean that I simply want to get into a group coaching program or something like that, right? There are so many different avenues. Maybe it's just reading a book. And with that caveat, it's not like I set a goal to read 100 books in 2025. I don't want that for you. I don't want it to be super vague and this year I want to be better with my mental health, but I do want you to get a little bit deeper and be like, I want to do XYZ for my mental health. I know the next step that I need to take and what that's going to look like for me specifically. And then we get there, then we do it, right? So I want you to think about your goals this year with that aspect in mind. This is going to be a really short episode today because I just want you to start getting the ball rolling, to start thinking about this. I want to remind you to take the time out of your day, to take time out of your week, to start to actually sit in that meditation, sit in that thought process, think about this before going full-blown steam ahead into goals that we're just setting because society says we have to, we think we have to, and then we just do them and it doesn't actually align with us. And so it doesn't actually feel good. And then again, creating those 50 new habits that we're going to do every day that don't light us up and don't move the needle in our life, because that's just not sustainable on so many levels, from an emotional standpoint, from a happiness standpoint, and also just from, a sustainable standpoint, right? Just logically knowing that we can't actually sustain a schedule as crazy as the one I used to do. Literally, it was 4 a.m. workout, 5 a.m. meditate, 10 a.m. to 5:20, make the smoothie. 5:20 to 5:30, read 2 pages of a new book. 5:30 to, 5:45, shower and listen to a podcast while showering from, on the Alexa device. 5:45 to 6 a.m., get dressed. Like, it was so freaking crazy. And there was so much going on that, as you can imagine, that lasted for maybe 3 months. And then ensued a period of burnout, which led to some guilt, which led to shame, which led to the cycle just creating itself over again, because I was like, I'm not strong enough. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not doing this? Why can't I, continue to live like this? I need to go at my goals harder, and I need to be like more consistent. And that's what would create that whole cycle all over again, where I just reset the same goals, but told myself, like, I have to be better at it. So, what I want for you is for you to set them sustainably. I did post recently in my Instagram stories a workbook that I think would help you, and it's all free. Like, don't, there's no like cost or anything like that. The basis of this workbook, which you can DM me, just DM me, workbook or something like that, and I'll send it to you. But the basis of this is for you to get your habits narrowed down and get that goal narrowed down. So it kind of walks you through a couple of steps, and it's a process that leads you to figuring out what you want to actually be achieving, what actually feels aligned for you, what actually feels good for you. Then moving forward, we set the correct habits that are going to keep that in place. Otherwise, we're just reaching for all of these different goals and these different opportunities and all these different ideas, and that never really leads us to a good place. So, of course, I highly suggest that you check that out, try it out. Just DM me the word workbook and I'll send it to you. It's free. And I also want to mention, again, I feel like it's easy to get these goals and these ideas in all 50 different aspects of our life, right? There's our health, there's our mental wellness, there's all these new, like drinking the water, eating the right foods, showing up as a better parent, showing up as a better employee, showing up as a better CEO, like whatever it is. There's so many different aspects of our life, health, wellness, finances, intimacy with our partners, relationships in general. Like, there's so much that it gets really overwhelming. And on top of that, we're already overwhelmed, right? We're just coming off of an election year. We all just, collectively, there's been so much going on lately, just in the planets and everything. Like, astrology lately is just telling us that there's so much going on. I feel like we're finally heading into a season where we can breathe a little bit after the pandemic that happened. I feel like it's like that collective exhale that we're stepping into after all of this craziness that's happened. And I know for me personally, if you guys have been listening or if you've heard lately on my podcast or on my social media, my grandmother just passed. So for me, the family fallout from that situation, which I wish that I could share on a more public level, but I'm not going to yet. But that's been crazy. Like, crazy. I wish I could share. I really do, because it's just been so much that's happened. It's really been eating me up, honestly. Just how some family members can become so rude after somebody passes away, how they will be sneaky and do things on somebody's deathbed, things that you just wouldn't expect. Sorry, I keep pausing because I'm trying to drink water. I have like a little dry spot in my throat. But what I want to say is, collectively, it's been nuts. Not just what I'm going through, because what I'm going through personally, I know so many people are going through very similar situations. And so I know that we're all kind of feeling very overwhelmed. And what I want to remind you, if I could say like one thing, it would just be to cut the fluff, cut the BS, stop chasing the lofty goals. Don't set the goals and the habits that we think we need to because everyone else is doing it. Just get focused and find the one area. And so with all of that being said, I'm hosting a summit coming up. It's going to happen in March for that specific reason. The specific reason that all of our goals, like, we get these crazy ideas and we feel the rush this time of year, and we feel honestly like the pressure to make these goals, to make these new habits, and then we do exactly the cycle that I just spoke about. It doesn't last. By February, we fall off. I am very intentionally creating a summit that's going to be happening in March for that reason. Because during March, April, that springtime, that is traditionally and astrologically, like that is the new year, right? That is like the traditional, like spiritual realm. Like that is when the new year begins, is when we come into the spring season, we get that energy, we feel good. And honestly, it's so much easier to come from that place. It's like emerging from the hibernation. We're coming out of the wintering period. We have the energy. It's easier to set goals and be sustainable goals and habits when it's that time of year, if that all makes sense. Versus this time of year, we're trying to get ourselves up and get going and have these habits and these, goals and all of this stuff when it's like the middle of winter. This is the wintering season. This is the hibernating season. This is the time where we're supposed to be resting and relaxing and rejuvenating and having these really long nights, shorter days. But as spring comes around, that is the whole point, is to emerge, is to come into that newness, that new growth, that feeling, that excitement, that new version of us, right? Uncovering, I'm picturing like the person coming out of literally like a cave, right? And like shaking off the snow and shaking off the cold and stepping into that new version, the new habits, the springtime. That is why the summit is going to be taking place at this time of year. And throughout the summit, we're going to have speakers that are focusing on several different types of, aspects of our wellness, right? Like I said, the intimacy, health, wellness, a lot of mindset. We're going to be talking so much about mindset, just changing our mindset, believing that we're worthy and letting that be, how we get into our habits and how we create sustainable habits from that place rather than from like the need for motivation and get up and just do it every day. Like that doesn't work, right? So that being said, all of this is happening in March so that you can take advantage of that new energy and also take advantage of the places that you want to grow. So that's why there's so many different coaches teaching on so many different things. But because we don't want anybody to be overwhelmed. We don't want anybody to come and say, I have to try all these new places and I have to try all these new things in my life. Nope. Each coach is coming with a different kind of tool, if you will, but with the underlying theme of the mindset that we need, the mindset that we can adopt so that we can create sustainable goals and sustainable habits. And whether you adopt what that coach says, maybe about health and wellness, or what they say about intimacy, or what they say about adopting breath work as a tool into your life to create sustainable change, regardless of which one you settle on, you're going to be learning from a platform of different coaches who are teaching you their habits, their tips and tricks, what they are experts on. And whatever you're kind of feeling called to land on, that can be the tool that you adopt, if that makes sense, right? For the next year, for this upcoming season. If you don't like something, if you don't want to focus on the health or the wellness, that's fine. We take a couple of notes, we tuck it in our back pocket, and we don't get overwhelmed. I think that so many of these summits focus on changing every aspect of our lives and doing every single thing. And we have to become, the best version of ourselves in our health, in our wellness, and our mental health, and our finances, and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, this is focusing on our mindset. What is the mindset that we need to create so that we can go out and crush our goals and change our habits and embrace the new habits that are going to get us from where we are now to where we want to go? So all of that to say, I would love for you to join us in March for the summit. I am very, very intentionally creating this at an $11 price point. It is going to go up, of course, as we get closer to the summit happening. But for right now, it's on sale for just $11, and that is going to be a limit. There is going to be a cap on how many people get it for that price point. So if it sells out sooner, then the prices might raise up sooner. But grab your spot as soon as you can. You can just DM me the word, Rise Live. That's what this place is called. That's what the summit is called, the event. It's all held virtually so that you can attend from anywhere. You will have access to a replay. And honestly, it's just going to be a really good time. Last year we did this and we had so many top coaches speaking on all of those different aspects. But again, with that common theme, that common denominator of us living our best lives without overwhelm and without the fluff. Every coach that comes in to speak, they know straight up, I will not run their presentation. I'll like take them off the air if I have to, if they're talking about fluff. If they're just like, well, follow me, and then we're going to talk about these 3 steps and blah, blah, blah. They're really coming in here and giving you like the down and dirty information, the transformation, how you get there and what you need to do to get there. So it's really, honestly, it's really going to be worth your time. And I just can't wait to see you there. I wanted to leave you guys with that and just remembering that the mindset is what we need to change to get where we want to go. It's all about how we're thinking about things, because our thoughts become our actions become our behaviors, so on and so forth. It all starts with what we're thinking and how we're thinking about it. And that's what's going to set us up for success as we continue to evolve and change as humans on this planet. So I love you so much. Take such good care of yourself, and I hope you have a blessed and beautiful week.